welcome to the Center for E-Learning Professional Development session for today. I am delighted to share with you Kathy Taliau presenting on quiz banks, getting the most value from them. All right, thanks Kathy. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, well, hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. It's really great to have you here, and we've got Brittany and Daniel supporting us. They are a wonderful CeL support team, and Dr. Corey Sorgi is here visiting too, and Dr. Abigail Perkins is also with us. We're so happy. And I am not able to see who's online, but I know that there are several people joining us remotely as well. Today's topic is question banks, building question banks that pay off. Get it? Banks pay off.
Oh!
Okay, and how am I forwarding? Oh, there we go. Is it coming up? Oh, okay. Yes. Our objectives for today's session, right, are to discuss strategies for writing effective quiz questions, and we're going to explore tools for implementing question banks through an LMS. And I was thinking it was only Canvas, but really it applies to all learning management systems. The first thing we want to do whenever we do something like this is to reflect on where we are right now. So just take a minute to think, if you will, how you feel about using quizzes in your online course, and what questions do you have for us today. We want to kind of throw those questions, or put those questions, just if you have a piece of paper, maybe write it down, and we'll probably address it during the presentation, but if we don't, we'll make sure that we do before we leave. Some of us feel great about using quizzes. We use them a lot. That's the only thing we use. Other people, no, I'm not comfortable with it at all. And really, that makes a lot of sense. We like to use themes, and we like to make connections to things that we're very familiar with. So today I picked our summer metaphor of going to the beach. And we're in Boca Raton, very beachy place, and you think, oh, everybody loves the beach. Not so. It really depends on your circumstances and how fair your skin is and things like that. How many other people are going to be at the beach today, that sort of thing. And I was recalling, I was a single mom raising 2 little kids, and going to the beach was not fun for me at all. It was full of a lot of anxiety because we had to pack all kinds of stuff, and it takes a long time to get there, and you have to park, and it's to carry all this stuff and hold on to the kids at the same time. And when you get there, it's kind of dangerous. They take off, and you're by yourself watching them, and what if it's, what if they get hurt or something like that? It was more trouble than it was worth. On the other hand, I had a friend named Pat, and she was great. She loved going to the beach. She lived close to the beach. She had all the stuff, and she even had a parking permit. Thank you. And she was that extra. She knew the games and loved doing it, and the anxiety level was greatly reduced when she was with us. She made it a lot of fun. I didn't, I could turn my head for a second and know that she was with me to do that. So a lot of people feel that way about quizzes, that I don't know, I've taken quizzes my whole life, but that doesn't necessarily mean I know how to launch a good quiz or how to implement a good quiz. And well, let me first talk about the benefits of it. Obviously, going to the beach, you get your fresh air, your sunshine, and you have your exercise and stuff. Quizzing is really good. It gives you immediate feedback to the students, checking their knowledge. The instructor can have a quick picture of how well the students are doing, and really it requires not too much monitoring as opposed to like papers and that sort of thing. On the other hand, it has its challenges, and Dr. Sorgi and I were talking about that this week. It's the number one concern that comes up with quizzes is the academic integrity. it's like the sharks in the water, you know? On this topic, we could do a whole webinar just on that. And that's really not the focus of this webinar. But if I'm so afraid of the sharks in the water, I might not go to the beach at all. So we have to be able to address that issue to say how are we going to make it safe. So actually, when you are when I send you the follow-up email, I'm also going to include a handout that has information about the different academic integrity software tools that we have. If there's anybody who maybe send back a message to Daniel if anybody feels like, wait, I really don't want to talk about quizzing until we talk about academic integrity, then we can back up and take a few minutes and do that. So if you're out there, go ahead and let us know, and Daniel will relay your message.
Maybe not. Go ahead.
Okay, we're okay. All right, good. Because I mean, it really is important. I don't want people to just be so nervous about it. Wait, I came here to ask about this, and you guys aren't talking about it. It is the one thing that universally professors want to talk about. Cheating in my class. We take it personally a lot of times too. So it does really compare to the sharks in the water. Now remember, there is really good software. There are good strategies. The sharks are always going to be in the water.
And always better sharks.
There's always a bigger shark and a better shark.
Yeah.
That's where they live. We can't get rid of the sharks. We hope that they don't go away,
Right.
If you're really that afraid, yeah, you're not going to be able to use it. You're not going to be able to go. But we can do things to reduce the risk of a shark attack, right? We can, yes.
So Lynn Appleton's made a comment. She says that she uses a lot of quizzes, but she's also very concerned about you.
Okay. Let me ask, has she used any of the academic? Lynn, Dr. Appleton, have you used any of the academic software? Respondus Lockdown Browser, HonorLock, anything like that?
She says, in particular, she's concerned with test banks being developed at FAU by groups like athletic teams. And yes, she uses Respondus. It has problems interfacing with Canvas.
Okay.
Plus people know how to break that browser.
Right. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. And you're right. People do collect question banks. They do. It really is not. They're always going to be out there. So what we want to do is reduce the risk. You go to the beach when the lifeguard is on duty. You stay kind of close to the lifeguard station. If something does happen, there's somebody there to help you. In a quizzing situation, I would recommend making quizzes a low stakes checkpoint. I worked with CeL students, and when the tests were high stakes, the cheating went up because it was really important for them to do well. And when the quizzes or assignments were more low stakes, just checking to make sure you understand the material, checking to make sure that you've got it, the risk is lowered and it's okay to not do as well. So there's different strategies. There are tools developed in the Canvas quiz software that timers are helpful. We know that students have access to the information. You can Google it, right? Is that okay? Is it okay for them to, how quickly can you access that information? And I'm also going to show you how to work with question banks and sort of shuffle answers and that sort of thing. Okay.
Lynn Appleton also mentions that her quizzes are low stakes and that CeL did a good job teaching us about low stakes.
Oh,
Thank you. That's really great.
Yeah.
They do a good job, Jeff.
She uses timers and shuffles answers.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Appleton. That's really awesome to hear. Okay, This is a sample course that I developed a long time ago when I was training here, actually at CeL. And the first thing I wanted to show you is what it means to use low stakes. One of the tools that you can do, so I'm clicking on my assignments here, and this is assignment groups weight, so that the groups of assignments that I have here, they're worth different points, but the group in general is worth a percentage. So here I can have as many quizzes as I want in this class. All of the quizzes are worth only 10%. That makes it lower stakes right there.
And that's no matter how many points you have assigned to them, right?
Mhm. So I can make them all worth 100 points. I can make whatever. It's kind of nice because if you have a hurricane and you need to take out a checkpoint or something, if people aren't understanding something, you need to add an extra piece in, you can build another assignment into this weighted group category, and it gives you some flexibility, and your scoring doesn't really change. So that's kind of cool. All right, now quizzes. Okay. I can't assume that people know what a question bank is. So this is what a question bank is. I'm going to come up here to all my quizzes, and I go up here to manage question banks. And here's all my question banks for this course. Inside the question bank, I've got my questions, and it shows question details. Okay. Now,
Great.
just know that if it's more than 51 questions in a question bank, you can't see the question details. So I would really recommend keeping the bank 50 and under.
And I would comment, always write questions in a bank. Never write it in a quiz.
Why?
So in the banks, you've got a lot of flexibility in copying questions, doing slight alterations to questions, grouping them in a variety of different ways. And then when you go from class to class or whatnot, you have a lot of flexibility in reusing questions. But once it's in the quiz environment, you can't go back. So you can always go from the bank to the quiz. And so if you're familiar with banks from back in the Blackboard days, when you could just copy a question and then alter it, you can't do that with Canvas unless you're in a bank.
Okay,
Yeah.
good information to know.
And whenever if you have the questions built into the quiz, when you do copy or bet your course over, it'll duplicate what you have. If you have it in the bank, when it's in the quiz, when you build a question into a quiz, it automatically builds a bank. So when you copy the course over, you've got the questions duplicated. So it really scrambles things up, kind of. Now, here's what I learned. One of the things I learned the hard way was naming my question bank. I recommend naming it your course number, instructor name, and then a quick, this is module 2. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And then I also recommend naming each question according to go along with what the bank is. And the reason why is I was working with an instructor we were doing like an computer engineering class. And he was using a lot of images in his questions. It was like a foreign language to me. All the links broke. And so students were taking these quizzes and the question images were not coming up. And we didn't know what question was broken, and we didn't know what image belonged to what question. And it was a foreign language, so there's no way I could. The instructor was the one who had to go with me, and each little thing we had to label and identify. So I learned this is what the professional companies do, Pearson and McGraw-Hill and stuff. When they build a quiz bank, question bank, they label it according to, they give it a specific naming convention. It makes it easier to access. Now, I'm not sophisticated enough to know how to do analytics on these things, but I would think after you've run this quiz a couple of times, you should have some data on how good the question is, how well the students are doing on it,
Yeah.
which would be another cool webinar to do sometime. Now, you ask, so what? Okay, quizzes, how to build a quiz. Let's say this is, I'm gonna edit this. I've got my instructions in my quiz. Again, we've got the time limit and we've got our shuffle answers, which we're gonna talk about that too. I don't know too much about this letting students see their quiz responses or not, but that would be helpful to know.
I can give you a little bit of feedback. I
Yeah.
don't know about for the correct answers for incorrect answers, but I know for myself when I'm writing questions in the general feedback, the third box, I always show how to do the problem, and they can see that feedback after they've taken the exam. They
Okay.
can't see the correct answer. They can't see what they answered, but they can see how to do the problem if you do that. So what I typically do is have that turned off until after the due date, and then I click that and students can see whatever they want then. So that's one thing that you can change after the quiz due date is
That's
passed.
good.
So
to
yeah, you
know.
can show the correct answers at a particular date and time.
Yeah, and that's just the answers. That's not the
Right.
feedback. They'll give you the feedback right away, and then the answers come later, and it's like,
Interesting.
So you
Okay.
leave the whole thing off.
I leave the whole thing off until after the due date,
Okay.
and then I go in manually and turn it.
That answers a couple of questions I've had. Thank you.
I also think it makes sense to make a quiz available only for a particular time.
Yeah.
I like letting students have the whole module in advance because I like them to be able to see assignments and things, but quizzes, I think it makes sense to leave them closed until it's time to actually take it. And that would be an academic integrity thing.
Are you
Okay,
going to talk about the timing at this point, or is that coming up later?
the timing, how much time to give them? Sure. We wanna,
Well, you had said that the time limit is one of the key points in narrowing down the sharks in the water.
I think so. And I've heard 1 minute per question, but I think it depends on the rigor of the question too. If it's something that a formula has to be worked out or they have to stop and research, that the instructor knows how much time a student
Right.
should need for that particular question.
Or perhaps just if you have similar question types for an exam, have the timing for the quiz associated with the timing for the exam. So
So
Yes.
Lynn Appleton made a comment about a problem with timers. She said that some of our students read very poorly in English. So if you set up timers for students who are first language in English, you harm those who aren't.
Okay, that's a really, really good point. And you can change that specifically for students. Moderate?
moderate, that's the word I was looking for. And so if a student reaches out to you and says, I'm not a native speaker, you can just add extra time.
And we're gonna
Yep, so
give
you go
him,
click on me, give me extra time.
okay,
Everyone gets 10 minutes, give me 20 more because I take a long time.
That'd be an interesting thing to mention, like the syllabus.
Yes.
to mention for, what, in the syllabus.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things is that this quiz, is generally for students with this, individual education programs. They've got accommodations that they need
Accessibility.
for accessibility. Some students need double time or whatever it is, and that's a legal thing. And students who need that and have had that created for themselves usually know. Again, that's another whole webinar.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we've had a couple actually.
Right,
But this
right.
is like timing, that's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Mary would like to say something. So
Sure.
recommend it. Well, Lynn Appleton made another comment. She said, how can we justify giving special consideration to students who claim that they have trouble reading?
I'm pretty sure that Mary is going to say something about ESOL students needing extra time. And I think that's probably up to the instructor. Most instructors, I would think, are quite reasonable. There is also the multicultural services department that can help students with
Yeah.
that. Excuse me, communicating with the instructor about meeting genuine needs of a student who's speaking English as a second language, for sure. Students with reading disabilities, that is a legal thing. They are entitled by law to have extra time. If you have a student who's claiming not to read well, that's up to the professor. They did get into school, and they do have a guidance counselor to help them. So I would really recommend asking students to work with you and student services to help with those accommodations and whether or not they're reasonable.
Excellent questions and comments, though.
For sure.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Also,
Okay.
it's part of the low stakes.
Yes.
You know,
Again,
so
yeah.
that's one thing for the test, but you have to be ready for the exam. So
Exactly. Okay, so what I was also really excited to share with you is this Respondus. Now, okay, loading question banks with Respondus. I'm gonna send you the how-to. We don't have time to go through the whole how-to, but this is a tool where all the instructors at FAU have access to this. You just contact OIT, and it's this Respondus software right here. What it allows me to do is to take a Word document and load a quiz. No, don't see. I'm taking a Word document and I copied my questions onto plain text. The question's number 1, and then the answer is A, B, C, D, and I've got an asterisk next to the correct answer. Okay, now it's very, very simple. I'm going to open my Respondus, and I'm going to import my questions, and I'm going to browse for that file. And then I'm going to create a new document, call it ABC 1234 Taliau Module 01, Control-C, and I'm going to tell it to use the stem to identify individual questions. Now I hit preview. A file already exists with that name. Okay, as I was practicing before.
I have another question. How do you get questions from a Canvas test bank to a plain text doc? Are those instructions going to be in the documents that we get?
Let me back up on that yeah, okay, so we're gonna preview that, and boom, it says, okay, here's all your questions. And now I'm gonna finish. Okay, I've saved a file to this group of things. Now I'm gonna preview it and publish it. I'm gonna publish it, publish wizard. This is my Canvas. Next. Okay, log out to Canvas. And I wanted to do it live because I wanted you to see how quickly it does work when it's working. I'm going to authorize Respondus. Did that. Okay, next. All right, now it says, do you want to create a quiz? I don't want to create a quiz. I want to create a question bank. Okay. Next. Now, where do you want to put it? Now, this is why I told you to put it in, to name the the question bank according to your thing, because after a while you get a whole lot of questions. Okay. All right, and it's publishing it, and it'll tell me in just a minute that it'll be finished. To answer the question that was asked, what we're going over now is not copying something that's already in a Canvas question bank, because once it's in the Canvas question bank, you're good to go. It's a matter of copying from one course to another course. And that's we can definitely help you do that too. So publish completed successfully. Now I finish. Yay. And open up my Canvas quizzes. And go to my question bank. And refresh. Of course, it's not doing it because you guys are watching. Oh, I put it in the wrong quiz. I put it in the wrong course. Darn it. Anyway, if I had put it in the correct course, it would be
showing up.
You can show how to copy question banks.
That's a good idea. So now,
Or,
because we want to do what Dr. Appleton asked about, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to import course content, and I'm going to copy a Canvas course, and I'm going to DEV_Google. I think it's in here. Select specific content. I'm going to select if this is the right one. Nope, that's not it. Question bank is what we want. Okay, so
So,
that's not the right one.
Dr. Appleton is asking for, basically, why would we create questions in Respondus rather than on Canvas?
Okay, that's a really good question. I would say build it into Canvas directly first. But if you already have questions on Word, or if you're not comfortable or whatever, people just want to do it different ways. We get question banks all the time from sample, nicely spelled, Kathy. Wow.
And building it in Respondus goes very quickly.
Yes, it really does. And it tells you where your errors are and that kind of thing. But there's just, I mean, there's the beautiful thing about Canvas is there's always several ways to do
Yes.
anything. So this is one way to do it. So like I said, you're building your question bank questions, sorry. So what happens when you get nervous and make one mistake, it messes you up for the rest of the day. Okay. Sorry, do a new question group. So A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, Taliau, module 3, so I'm gonna pick 5 questions. And these are worth a lot more. These are the harder questions. So I'm going to make them worth 10 points each. Now I'm going to link to a question bank. Now look, these are all the question banks that I have access to as an instructional designer. Wow. If they weren't numbered or labeled, I would be in big trouble because I have so many questions. And as an instructor, you teach a number of courses, you build a number of banks, you're not going to be able to find anything unless you label it. So here's my module 3 bank. It tells me I've got 5 questions in here. I'm going to select this bank and I'm going to create that group. And now my students have a variety of questions pulled from this bank with the answers scrambled. They all are going to get the same 5 questions from this bank because there's only 5 questions in it. So if I want to make it more integrity to it, I need to either put more questions in or pull less out.
Right.
Okay. And that's how that works. Now, here's some more beautiful things about writing questions. In Canvas, you can build a variety of question types. We're not going to spend too long on this because it's all in the Canvas guides, but it would be very helpful to not choose all of the above or A and B only, because the Canvas tool is going to mix up the distractors. So A and B doesn't mean A and B for everybody.
Okay.
Okay. You can choose multiple answers are correct. And when you do something like this, choose all 3 that are correct. Students can get partial credit if they pick 1 or 2 that are correct.
Okay.
Okay. And also in your feedback, you can provide feedback for different answers. You can give, this is correct. You can do like, yay, good for you. Or you can put the formula there. And you can also do that with the incorrect answer. Go back to page 24. Okay. There's also multiple drop downs are a really good strategy for questions. Let's see. Did I put one in here? Yes, okay. So this would be fill in duplicate blanks. And we don't need to, I don't need to show you how necessarily to do it, but you've got answer 1 and answer 2. Answer 1 has these distractors in this answer. Answer 2 has these distractors in this answer. And those things will get scrambled as well. There's also formula questions, which I haven't tried, but I saw it and it's amazing. Dr. Sparky showed me how to do it. It's like, wow, that's amazing. There's all kinds of stuff. You can put images in there, which one is the correct, what goes with that. So we want to make sure always to remember, in case you haven't seen it before, FAU paid extra money for white glove service for all faculty, all instructors and all students. 24/7. Don't ever struggle with Canvas more than 30 seconds. I'm serious.
Absolutely.
And tell your students too, don't call me, call Canvas. They can see
Yeah.
exactly what's happening in your course and they can help you with it and they will follow up and they're there. They have the answers. At CeL, we like the challenge of I called them and they didn't know the answer. That's fun for us because we're just kind of psycho that way. But most of the time, they'll also will connect with the instructor whose students are having trouble with a particular issue. They'll let the instructor know. So what we really wanted to do, and of course we only have 10 minutes left, this is the most important part. Okay, we've done the what do we bring into the beach and where's the sunscreen and I've got sand in my shoes, all of that. The picture and the memory and the good time at the beach is the reason why we go. Okay, all of the hassle, I do have some pictures of my kids playing on the beach and it was worth it. Okay, so we want to make it worthwhile. If you go there and you bring too much beer and you have a fight, that's not fun. It's not worth it, right? So in a quiz situation, we get the benefits only if the questions are well written. Okay, this is the real meat in the sandwich. Just because people have taken quizzes their whole life doesn't mean they know how to write a good quiz question. Okay, I've been reading newspaper articles my whole life. That doesn't necessarily mean I know how to write a good newspaper article. There's strategies for it, and people specialize in it. Okay, you can get a job writing quiz questions.
Ooh.
Even then, you might not do it very well. I've seen some bad ones.
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing you want to do is focus on significant aspects of lesson content. Go to your course level learning objectives and go to your module level learning objectives to find out what is it that I really want my students to be able to do and know. This is not a gotcha. You're not trying to get them to figure out the little minutia and important details. They need to know that we're all spending our time on something valuable. And that will also increase their desire to do well. You're not wasting their time. These are online students. They don't know you very well. They don't have each other. They're just doing what they have to do. And a lot of people are not just kids. They're adults who work and everything, and they've paid a lot for this course. They want to do well, okay?
And it also helps with the alignment within the course too.
Absolutely. If you're using self-checks as just making sure the student understands, let's find out if they really understand.
Right.
That's the goal, right? And we're not assuming that it's easy. It's not easy. It's difficult to do this. Now, there's some really good resources here, and we've talked about a few of these things. But in preparing this sort of thing, we Google everything. How do you write good quiz questions? Somebody else already wrote it. And these are some really good resources. I think I'll click back out to them again. Screen and share. Okay. Go around it. Share docs, and I'm going to share all of this with you folks. Where's my notes?
That answers a question Christine Spadola had,
Yes?
where she wanted to know if they would have access to handouts with academic integrity / non-cheating resources for online exams and quizzes.
Yes, absolutely will. But I want to try to get to this.
Plus, while she's looking, I will suggest that when you get this information back, if you have questions from this today, because obviously we've gone, that covered a whole lot of material. Whatever questions you have, please respond back with those questions so that we know to schedule another session and be specific about what you need to know.
Okay, so this is VIU, Vancouver, I think, University. How to write effective quiz questions, tips for writing multiple choice. Some of the things that I noticed are like, if they're all starting with a capital letter and one is lowercase, that is either, I mean, that might be the answer. You know, a lot of times,
Right.
or if the thing is, if all the other answers have 2 words and this other one has a big long sentence, it's probably the big long sentence, you know, because the instructor hasn't really figured out how they want, what the real options are. You don't have to have 4 distractors. If there's only like, if you just need to know the difference between this one and that one, it's okay to have 2.
Right.
You know, they should make sense. Here's where it says number 8, make all the responses fairly equal in length. Okay, put the options in logical order if possible. Make sure your grammar, and punctuation, and spelling are correct.
Or at least consistent.
Yeah.
Avoid using the words never, all, none, always. They often indicate an incorrect response. And place the correct answer in each piece. Okay, so these are ones where they're not going to shuffle up the answers. Okay, so that's one strategy. And then the other one, writing great quiz questions and response options. These are great. Everything's related to the learning objectives and the course content. All the questions present the learner with feedback that supports the correct answer. All the questions avoid using humor. You know, it's not, you do have ESOL students. You do have, it's not, you want them to show you respect, show the students respect and let them take it seriously because you take it seriously. So things like that. I'm going to share this with you so that we don't need to take all of your time doing this, but they're great. You know, make them all nouns. If the answer is a noun, have them all nouns. You know, if the answer is a verb, have them all verbs, that sort of thing. And we did share the Canvas resources, but I'm also going to share with you a link that has the different our open lab hours and that sort of thing. What you really need to know always is you are not alone. The Center for E-Learning is here exclusively to support online students and online instructors. We want you to be successful. We want it to be a good experience for your students. At this point, are there questions? We've got 3 minutes left.
There's a question. Stephanie Anderson asks, are there any options for creating quizzes with short answers? In that case, the instructor would read individual answers and determine the correctness.
There are indeed. The question type you're going to pick is essay. I thought that there was a rubric that you could use, but there is not. We need to suggest that to Canvas. And
There's short answer and essay.
Yes.
Both are options.
Neither allow rubrics.
Right.
I found them.
Yeah.
One thing I would be careful of is if you don't want to grade it, don't put it in. And short answers don't use because, I mean, we're fill in the blank. Don't use it because if it's spelled differently, if there's a capital that's different, it will be wrong.
Yeah.
Has to be exactly what you put in. So in those cases, I would recommend a long drop down, different choices that they can do instead.
Yeah, good question, Stephanie. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you so much. And thank you for being patient with the technical issues that always, online instruction, that's always going to be part of it.
There's always some little,
Right.
little quirk.
But thank you all so much. Your time is the most valuable thing that you have, and we appreciate you giving us an hour of your day today. We hope that you have a great rest of the week.
And thank you, Kathy, for really taking a deep dive into a topic that most of us try to stay away from. Thank you. Excellent. And as I say, when you get the information back, please respond back to us with whatever questions that are still hanging around in your mind, so we can come back and address them all for you. Thank you so much.